Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are talking about a technology that is making AI so much smarter and honestly a lot more reliable. It's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, and it's basically fixing one of AI's biggest, most annoying flaws. So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at AI's big memory problem. Then we'll get into the solution, this whole open book idea. After that, we'll peek under the hood to see how it works, check out some real-world examples, and finally, see how RAG stacks up against other ways of upgrading AI. All right, let's jump right in. Because, to really get why RAG is such a game changer, you first have to understand this one massive hurdle that every single large language model runs into. We've all seen it, right? You ask an AI a perfectly simple question, and it answers with complete confidence, but it's totally wrong. Well, that's not just a glitch. There's a really specific reason that happens, and it points to a major weak spot in how these things are built. Okay, so here's the deal. A large language model's brain is essentially frozen in time. It only knows what it learned from the giant pile of data it was trained on. So that means its information can be old news, or even worse, it can start inventing things that sound right but aren't. You've probably heard this called hallucination. So the big question is, how do we get around this memory problem? How do we stop the AI from just making stuff up? Well, it turns out there's a really clever solution. Honestly, the best way to think about RAG is with a classic school analogy. A standard AI is like a student taking a closed-book test. It has to rely completely on what it's already memorized. But an AI with RAG, it gets an open-book test. It can look up the facts from a trusted source before it gives you an answer. It's not about memorization anymore. It's about research. So, to put a slightly more technical name on it, RAG isn't some brand new AI model. It's more like a smart framework that bolts two things together: a retrieval system, which is kind of like a super fast search engine, and the generative model, which is the part of the AI that's good at talking. The two work together to create answers that aren't just well-worded, but are actually based on real, current facts. Now, that all sounds great, but how does it actually find the right information so quickly? I mean, how does this whole open book thing really work? Let's take a look under the hood. It's actually a pretty simple three-step dance. Okay, so here's how it goes down. First, you build what's called a knowledge library. You take all your trusted documents, company policies, medical journals, whatever, and you put them into a special searchable database. Then, step 2, when you ask a question, the system instantly searches that library to find the most relevant snippets of text. And finally, for the magic part, it hands your original question and the facts it just found over to the AI and says, okay, answer this, but only use the information I just gave you. It's a simple but brilliant way to keep the AI on track. All right, enough theory. This isn't just some concept in a lab. RAG is already out in the wild, making AI way more useful. Let's look at a couple of real-world examples that really show what a difference it makes.
Let's start with a classic one, a customer support chatbot. You're on a website, you have a question about returning something, and your situation is a little specific.
Now, without RAG, the chatbot might just give you a generic check our FAQ page answer. Useless. But with RAG, the bot can instantly look up the store's actual up-to-the-minute return policy, find the part about damaged items, and give you this perfect, actionable answer. It's not guessing, it's quoting the source material.
Okay, now let's raise the stakes a bit. Let's talk about a scenario where getting it right isn't just convenient, it's absolutely critical, like an AI tool for medical information. This is where RAG really shows its power. The system can be fed a library of trusted medical research. So when you ask it something, it provides a helpful, fact-based summary. But what's really crucial here is that because it knows exactly where it got its information, it can also be programmed to add that super important disclaimer at the end. That doesn't just make the AI smarter, it makes it safer and more responsible.
So, you might be wondering, is RAG the only way to upgrade an AI? And the answer is no, it's not. It's actually one tool in a bigger toolbox. So to really understand its place, let's quickly compare it to a couple of other popular methods. You've got a few options here. At the simplest level, there's prompt engineering. That's just getting better at asking the AI questions. It's fast and easy, but it only gets you so far. Then there's fine-tuning, which is like sending the AI back to school to become an expert in a specific subject. That's really powerful for teaching it a certain style or vocabulary, but it's expensive, and that new knowledge can still get old. RAG, though, sits in this perfect sweet spot. It gives the AI access to fresh, real-time facts without having to completely retrain the whole thing. So that's RAG in a nutshell.
It's what turns an AI from a student who's just trying to remember things into a researcher with the entire library at its fingertips. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty massive question to think about. If we have a tool that can reliably access and understand all human knowledge in an instant, what are the right questions to start asking?